Hello, everyone. Halloween is coming up, and so it seemed good to talk about it just a little bit. Halloween is not America's biggest consumer holiday, but it is well over a $10 billion a year industry. And everything from decorations to costumes to candy and catering, the party comes together, and it actually even forms the beginning of a festive season that will go out throughout the fall and well into winter. I mean, you've got Halloween starts, in a couple, soon, and then not long after that is Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, and then New Year's, and it just seems like you're just getting done with one party, and the next one's right around the corner. So it's important to think about why we do the things we do, and specifically with these festivals. And with Halloween, Christians have had mixed responses about it in the past. Understandably so, but let's kind of talk a little bit about those. First of all, many Christians have taken the approach of just enjoy it, have fun. Why not just go full bore into it, and don't be such a stick in the mud. I've known Christians that really go all out, and I've got good Christian friends whose Halloween decorations are legendary, and they go all in on it. And I get that because they're fun people, and everyone around them is fun people, and they're going to have a good time. So that's one approach. Second approach is many churches will take something of a kind of a hybrid approach, where they've seen it as like, okay, people are already thinking of being festive. We'll use that as something of possibly a church outreach. You'll see something like sometimes a harvest festival that will be announced, or many churches sometimes will even have what they call trunk or treat, where all the cars are parked in the parked in the church parking lot, and under the safety of the church parking lot, they can bring their kids together for their costumes and candy and have a good time there. And so churches will use that as like, okay, we're going to use that in some capacity to be inviting. But there's a third approach that many Christians have, and that is they'll abstain from it altogether. And because for whatever reason, they can't seem to reconcile the festivity, the full all the trappings, everything about Halloween with their personal ethic regarding fidelity to God. And this last one I kind of get. And the reason why I kind of empathize with that is because years ago, as I was looking into the feasts of the Bible, the feasts of the Old Testament, the festivals prescribed to the Hebrew people in the Old Testament, what I saw, I'm talking about like the festivals of Passover, and these were all celebrated later on in the New Testament in the time of Christ. Things like Passover and the Feast of Pentecost and the Feast of Tabernacles and even the Feast of Purim later on. These were all celebrated within the time of the New Testament, but they're prescribed in the Old Testament in the Bible. And one thing I noticed about all these prescribed festivals is they had three things in common. One, they all commemorate some way in which God intervened for them in the past. His grace came to the rescue, and it was sometime in their past where they wanted to remember that historic event. There was a reason for the season. There was a historic event that they were glad occurred, and it was worth remembering and commemorating. And so you're going to keep that as part of your cultural narrative. That was one. They commemorated the past. Second is they celebrated God's ongoing grace in some manner that really seems reminiscent of how He did that for them in their times past. As a means of worship, the celebration thanks God for His ongoing grace watching over them, continuing as a detectable and even in some ways non-detectable benefit. So it's a celebration of the goodness of God in an ongoing way, how He preserves us even right now. And then this third thing it did was it anticipated God's goodness going in the future. The expectation is that God will continue to be good to us just as He had in the past and is up till now. And it was an opportunity to renew your hope in what is to come. And so all the prescribed festivals had those three components. They commemorated past benefit, they celebrate the present grace, and they anticipate future blessing. Well, many of our current festivals and parties do exactly that. Think about what birthdays and anniversaries, how much they do this exact same thing. Christmas and Easter definitely do, but even like other more modern holidays, like Mother's Day and Father's Day, even national holidays like Independence Day, all fit neatly within this kind of legitimate festival rubric of because they all commemorate, celebrate, and anticipate. And as a result, we can make an argument for why all of those are legitimate festivals. We can say there's a reason for the season because we can always articulate the reason as a good one. Well, as a result, having said all that, in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, Halloween doesn't fit. I've never been able to make it fit. Now, I looked at it from various different angles, and I've never been able to quite make it, pigeonhole into that rubric of what constitutes a legitimate festival. There's really nothing about it that I can look at and go, well, that really commemorates a event from the past that I'm glad occurred. And that it somehow celebrates the goodness of God in an ongoing way that I can point to and say, see, God is good, or anticipates something, his future grace going forward. It just doesn't fit in that. And so it seemed like it almost stands out as the exception to all these others, to the reason why that makes all these other festivals and celebrations very legitimate and worthy of our best efforts to really be a festive people. Now, I hear the objections. People say, well, what is your problem? What do you have against candy, dressing up, or having fun? And taken individually, none of those elements are objectionable. I don't think any reasonable person really, goes against candy, costume parties, or I myself even am something of a fan of certain scary movies sometimes. So taken as an individual, those are fine, but you bring them all together in a festival, and it's just hard to make it fit with a legitimate philosophy of celebration. Now, so as a result, I'm just not into Halloween. But there are other festivals around the Christian calendar that would make great and excellent substitutes. Consider, for example, certain things that have happened in the Christian calendar in the past. Like, for example, November 1st historically is All Saints' Day, in which the church would celebrate all those saints of the past that had great examples of people to follow. In fact, Halloween, October 31st, was once called All Hallows Eve, because it was the evening before the day in which you would get together with everybody to celebrate all those holy people in the past whose examples you really hope would inspire you. Now, so there's All Saints' Day, All Hallows Eve. Some even use October 31st. Some Christian traditions even use October 31st as a means of remembering even the Protestant Reformation, because October 31st has some significant date for that, has a special significance. Now, I know that's many Christian traditions have mixed feelings about that, because the Protestant Reformation is seen as having significant fallout for Christ's church going forward. But nevertheless, why wouldn't it be a legitimate way to think about how the fact that God's goodness is always ongoing, such that he reforms us when we need it? I get it. I see it. I think it's actually an even more legitimate thing to look at than, say, even Halloween. It still would fit within that rubric of a legitimate celebration. The bottom line is there's plenty of ways that festivals can spring up out of legitimate lessons from history. And there's no reason why the church has to be lazy and just go along with the culture around them. Put your heads together. Have some creativity. Create festivals and parties that commemorate, celebrate, and anticipate. In that way, we can truly be an enthusiastically festive people, knowing that it's more likely that God will show up at your event, look around and go, hey guys, cool party. That's all I have for today. Have a blessed day. God bless you. If you enjoyed this content, please hit like and subscribe, and we will keep it up.